Okay, I think we'll get started. If you don't have a handout, there's handouts in my back left, and there's also, if you haven't signed up for the PC picnic, there's a sign-up form if you want to attend. First, before the main topic, we'll cover some of the status information from the club. Our next meeting is going to be August 20th, Thursday, August 20th, and it'll be in this room, and it'll be by James Holman, and it'll be on backing up information, the what, why, what, when, where, how to back up. The MaxSig, there currently is a MaxSig also going on at the same time, so we lost a few people attending that one also. And I mentioned the picnic is coming up on August 5th. I've got another slide in here on that. It's Wednesday, August 5th. We'll be back out at Tartan for probably the last time. The cost, if you want to sign up, $5 per person. You can either hand it to me if you want to pay, or if Linda shows up, she'll gladly take the registration in that too. It'll be our usual dinner, prize drawings, elections of the officers. We'll have brats and burgers, veggie burgers, beans and fruit, and there'll be a drawing for door prizes, and you must RSVP by the 31st with your money to confirm your reservation. Officers of the club, Jim Holman is our president, and I don't see Jim here. Linda Brown is our vice president. I don't see Linda there either. Paul Ebert is our membership secretary, and Lowell Toos is our interim membership secretary while Paul's out for a little bit. And I don't see Lowell here right now, but if you do have a membership, you can drop it off with me and I'll get it to Lowell also. Mike Griffin is our treasurer and MaxSig. Stan Miller, back in the right there, is our secretary. Andrew Petrin is our communication coordinator, and Andrew's back in the corner there. And my name, I'm Tom Kreuzer. I'm a director at large. Members old and new, if you want to pay your dues, you can give it to Lowell, or since Lowell currently isn't here, I can take it and I'll get it to Lowell there. And a reminder that if you change your email, make sure and notify Lowell, because that's the way that we keep in touch, sending out our notices and renewal notices and that. If you have suggestions for topics, you can email or talk to any of the board members, or if you want to volunteer to present, whether it's on hardware or software that you use at home or at work. And if you don't want to present, we do have a monthly eBytes newsletter, and you can write short 1 or 2 sentences up to multiple pages for our eBytes newsletter if you want to write an article. Website, we post our past meetings with the slides and the handouts, and when we record them, they're also out there. We also have a deals section and our monthly newsletter, and the newsletter has tips and hints, questions. You can ask questions. Favorites links, and that you can send any of that to myself, and I'll make sure it goes into the next edition there. And the link to the site is also on the handout, the back of the handout there. Yes?
Before you get to the meeting stuff, I actually planned ahead and had my picnic sack with me that I forgot out in the van. So I was thinking I'd run out there before you got here, so I was thinking,
Linda collects the checks for the pick. You can leave it with me. You leave it with me, and I'll get it to Linda.
Or is there an outbox at our streets in there? Because I put her
there should be. I'm not sure. Otherwise, like I say, you can just drop it off with me, and that's fine too. Okay. Okay. And that brings up if anyone else has any other general club questions or that. There are handouts for those that came in back in the left-hand corner, so if you didn't pick one up, you can pick one up. Today our topic is future device technology, and I'll be giving the presentation. The meeting format, I've got a few things that I want to cover, but in general, we're leaving it open. You can ask questions at any time. It's very informal there. And certainly speak up about devices that you own, likes, dislikes, things that you've seen. So this can be interactive as you want. Okay, PCs or devices have changed quite a bit in the last 35 years. They've evolved from the desktop PC to now where we have devices, PCs and devices that are almost everywhere in everything. Where is it headed and what should you do? Well, that's the question, and the answer for one person is not the answer for another person. So everybody moves at a different pace, everybody has different needs, everybody has different budgets, so you kind of have to figure out what makes the most sense there. It's been a wild ride, and currently the ride shows no signs of stopping. Technology is evolving so fast, things are getting smaller, things are getting cheaper. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. And example of that is I just had a guy yesterday in my group here at 3M stop by, and he was talking about maybe purchasing a tablet, and he goes, gee, I hate to have to buy all these different devices, my smartphone and a laptop and a tablet and stuff like that. And I had to remind him, I said, the first PC that I bought, this was back, well, actually the first IBM I bought, I had a PC before the IBM, but the very first IBM I bought, I paid, that was with an IBM employee discount of 50%, I paid $4,500 for it. So you can afford to buy a smartphone, a tablet, a laptop. You can buy all those things for probably under $2,000 right now. And so cost-wise, are we better off today than we were 35 years ago? You betcha. So even though you're buying more devices and you're maybe upgrading them every 2 years or 3 years, it's because they've come out with additional features and functionality that you're usually doing that. Yes?
I'm going to be talking about Internet of Things and then
we'll be talking about a few topics there. Mainly, I was concentrating on some of the devices and what's evolving there and when to use them and things like that. But certainly we can talk about some of this because I think we're going to have enough time to cover a lot of topics there. Okay. Yeah, today we have lots of choices when it comes to what device you want to use. I mentioned the tablets, but you have smartphones, you have laptops, you have Chromebooks, you have your car has multiple computers in there. Refrigerators now come with computers. You've got a bunch of options now when you do things. Picking the right one, I equate it to picking a motor vehicle. What works for one person or for one purpose doesn't work for everybody to do everything. So people will say, well, what's the one tablet or what's the one smartphone? Or what should I get here? Well, it depends on what you're trying to do and what your specific needs are. In the car example, you use a pickup truck for usually completely different things than what you use a vehicle that you commute back and forth to work. And there's advantages to each vehicle, and people own multiple vehicles who have multiple needs there. And so finding the right thing is what the challenge today is. And you do that by defining what your needs are, then you can kind of decide what devices may suit it best there. Okay, this is some information from the last PC survey that we did in December and January of this year. and the questions had to do with smartphones and tablets. So for smartphones, we asked how many people have smartphones and how many smartphones do they have. We increased from 61% of the people with smartphones a year ago to 80% this year. So we're getting to the point of most people now do have a smartphone, and if you don't already have a smartphone, I'd certainly highly recommend it. The prices have come down considerably for both the phones and the plans. You can get plans I mentioned in here starting at $25, and now actually Republic has a plan now that starts at $17. So, data plans and stuff like that, again, the costs have gone down, devices themselves have gone down. There's really no reason not to take advantage of a device like that. Same kind of thing for tablets. We increased from 60% to 66% in the last year. And like I mentioned here, for both the tablets and the smartphones, that number should almost be 100% of the people having them because the prices have come down. You can get tablets for under $50 now. And everyone can use a tablet, again, whether it's at home there. I use mine at home, and it's not going to let you get rid of that desktop PC or that laptop PC, but certainly you're going to find yourself using that to do a lot of things, whether it's a quick search on the internet, checking your email, looking at photos. There's just a ton of things that you can do, and the fact that it's so light and portable means that you can take it from room to room, in the kitchen, garage. If you're building something, I'll look up stuff on the internet. I'll do things. So to me, it's been very, very valuable to have that. Also from the survey, I asked the question of the percent of time that you spend on the three different devices, the tablet, smartphone, and desktop/laptop. And with the current survey, what it's showing here is on average, people are spending 70% of their time on their desktop, laptop. They're spending 14% of their time on the tablet and 16% of the time on the smartphone. And again, this number for the smartphone, for the desktop, laptop continues to go down, and then these percentage that we're spending on smartphones and tablets continues to rise there. Let's see, and this is a chart. This is a chart with each of the responses. So all the members that responded here, there's a bar for every one of them. And the people that are on this side here are using their desktop or their laptop 100% of the time and are not using a smartphone or a tablet for any of their computing there. And we have roughly 12% of the people that responded fall into that category of just using their laptop. Then we have on the other end of the scale, we have a few people that use their desktop or their laptop only 10% of the time, and then they're using tablet, let's see, that's about 70% of the time, and then the rest of the time on their smartphone there. So you can see the variations that we have in members. Some people spend a lot more time on their phones and on their tablets, but in general, we have this trend moving away from the desktop to some of these other devices there. Myself, I kind of fall right in the middle there, and it's a case there of I estimate I use my desktop maybe 50% of the time, I use my tablet 40% of the time, and I use my smartphone about 10% of the time. But again, I can't use just one device there. You want the right device at the right time there. Okay. We'll talk about some of the advantages of what a phone device is good for, and this is some of the same stuff we covered back in 2012. There was a topic on which device to use, and so if you think some of this stuff is familiar, it's because we did cover some of this before in 2012 there. But phones in general, some of the things that phones are very good for is obviously making a call, a phone. Other devices, a tablet is not as good. You've got this big device and it's hard to do, and the desktop, same type of thing. And you can make calls with them. You can use packages like Skype or that to make calls, or Apple Talk, but in general, the phone is going to be the much better device for you there. They're small, and being small means that they're portable. They fit in your pocket or a purse or wherever you're going. So when you start getting into a larger form, it starts becoming hard to carry around, or you have to carry a separate bag or things like that in there. So portability certainly is one of its strong points here. Low upfront costs. The device itself tends to be cheaper than some of the other tablets or laptops there. And with some of today's cell phone plans, they subsidize the cost of the phone itself. So like if you have an AT&T plan and you're getting an Apple iPhone, well, you're really not paying retail for that Apple iPhone. You're getting that at a discount because they know that they're going to make their money off of the plan that they're selling. Another pro is MP3 or songs, music. Listening to songs and music, because it's portable, means that you can take it with you anywhere. And now with the cloud and storing music and that, you can access your music and that everywhere. So they are a great device. You don't see as many people buying the iPods anymore or needing any other device. If you want to listen to music, if you've got a phone, certainly you can listen to music on your phone there. The only downside to listening to it on your phone is potentially battery drain there. So if you can't plug in and charge and do some things, well, that's where people will have some other devices there. Another big advantage of a phone is every phone that I've seen comes with a GPS. So the GPS is very handy for a number of applications, whether it's telling you where you are, telling you what businesses are close by, how to get from point A to point B. GPS comes in very, very handy there. And you don't tend to see that on some of the other devices like tablets and laptops and desktops. Also good for games. So while you're waiting somewhere, it can pass the time and you can do stuff there. And the apps that you have available. Literally millions of apps are out there, and so the wide variety of things that you can do. Some of the cons of a phone, the cost per month, data plan. Certainly you have to look around and find what meets your needs in that, but it used to be that people were paying upwards of $100 a month for their cell phone plan, which included a data plan in there. And like I say, those costs have been dramatically decreased over the years there. They do have a small display, although this form is, I used to say 3 to 5 inches, but now you can maybe say 6 inches because some of the phones are getting a little bit bigger. Again, the trouble with them getting bigger is they're a little harder to fit in pockets or in things like that. They do have limited memory, limited battery life. The bigger the display, the more power it takes to power it. So you're always got that constant trade-off of small display, less power, battery's going to last longer. Bigger display, it's gonna take more of your battery life. So you have to weigh things like that. Models change yearly. Most vendors are coming out with new models every year there. Less comfortable to use if you're typing on the keyboard or using a keyboard compared to a keyboard, a mouse, things like that. And we'll talk about some future options that are certainly coming. It can be hard to browse the web because you've got the small screen, and a number of the websites out there are not written for the small screens. They assume that you have bigger screens and that you have a mouse to click on, so if the sites that you're going out to aren't customized for a smartphone, the sites can be hard to use there. Okay, some of the pros of a tablet. Tablets are very good for content consumption, meaning that you're browsing the web for things, you're looking at your emails, you're watching movies, you're playing music, you're playing games. So when you're consuming content, they can be very good for that. They have bigger displays than the phone and usually range from 7 to 10 inches there. Portable, lightweight, easy to use, lots of apps, and the cool factor. Almost everybody seems to bide their time with tablets or with phones there. Cons of a tablet, I mentioned that it's good for content consumption. They're not as easy to use for content creation. If you were creating a big PowerPoint presentation or a Word document, typing a lot of stuff or trying to get a lot of content in that way, they aren't the easiest thing to use for that content creation. The other thing is when you're doing a number of these things, you want to see it on a bigger display, and even though the display is bigger than a smartphone, it's still not as big as the displays that people tend to have on their laptops or their desktops. And that's the next item, smaller display than the laptop or desktop in there. Same as the phone, limited memory, limited battery life, models do change, less comfortable to use compared to a keyboard, a mouse, and some of the others. And most of them have no external connections to other devices. Yes. Yeah, I'll repeat the question for the recording. Do you need antivirus for smartphones and the tablets? A number of places will recommend it. I personally do not recommend it. They can get viruses, whether it's an Apple product or an Android product. You can get viruses and you can have problems. The issue that I didn't like putting antivirus software on a tablet or on a phone is it consumes a good portion of your battery life because it's constant. If a good antivirus is always monitoring, if you go out to the internet, it's constantly scanning everything and stuff like that. So what happens is you'll find that it consumes a good portion of your battery. If you go in and check which applications are consuming your battery, that's going to be probably the number one application consuming your battery. So personally, what I do is I weigh the risk against the having it on there, and the risk is, okay, what happens to my phone if something did get in here? Well, I don't have I mean, yeah, I have my contacts and I have some other things, but I wouldn't have what I would call valuable information on here. I do online banking, but again, those applications and the way they store accounts and passwords, it's highly unlikely that any antivirus program is going to be able to get at that information. And in terms of pictures and stuff like that I have on here, I've already got all those backed up to the cloud. And so if I lost my phone or dropped it and it, ceased to function there, I always look at it as how fast could I be back up and running and doing what I need to do. And once I get a new phone, I can be up and running in probably an hour and have everything back in place. That's malware, and on tablets and on smartphones, you tend not to have as much viruses and malware there because of the way that most people use them. You're loading apps, and as long as you load your apps from iTunes or from Google Play and don't go out and, randomly pull them down from other sites, you're assured that those apps were scanned for viruses, so you're not downloading a virus that way. So it's that risk, reward there. But if you are concerned about it, certainly you can. There's a number of free antivirus. And I mentioned in the meeting that we had for best apps, there's some list of security on there, and certainly you can try them. But personally myself, I'm willing to take that risk because I don't want to lose the battery. Okay. Okay, so limited battery life, models change, less comfortable, external connections. And the external connections are other devices plugging in and things like that. Most of the tablets and the smartphones now, like what I do with my phone here, is I can connect it externally to my TV. So I have Chromecast, I can do that. My brother has Apple TV. I can connect to his, and I can do slideshows. I can play music and stuff like that from my phone on the TVs. So you do have capability of connecting. It's just there's very specific applications or ways that you connect the devices there. Okay. Laptops. Laptops, great for content creation, portable, you can use room to room. They have a bigger display than a tablet, full-size keyboard, require less space to set up and use than a desktop. Built-in wireless webcam into the device. Some of the cons, they cost more when you buy and to upgrade than a desktop. They have slower CPUs than a desktop because they're trying to extend the battery life and things like that. They are slower. They have limited resolution, usually smaller resolution than desktop. Smaller and slower hard drives. Memory costs more to upgrade. Limited internal expandability if you're looking to add drives or memory or things like that. You usually don't have as much flexibility, more costly to repair, easy to lose or for somebody to steal, and they're less comfortable to use because the keyboards can be smaller. They can be 70% of the size of a normal keyboard, and if you've ever used one of those that's a little smaller, you kind of have to keep looking to make sure where your fingers are and that you're getting the right stuff. Some of the pros of a desktop, performance. If you ultimately need the best performance because you're doing video editing or animation, 3D design, anything that really needs performance there, your fastest machine is always going to be a desktop machine there. Cost, they're always going to be the best value, the best performance for the dollar. You're going to get that in a desktop. Bigger displays, and again, you can go almost as big as you want or that you have room for anywhere, any size there. User interface is usually the easiest for people to use, full-size keyboard, mouse, whatever there. Usually more ports, whether they're USB ports and expansion, and they tend to have faster hard drives. The cons, they're not portable, take up space, can be noisy, generate a lot of heat, and tend to weigh a lot there. Any questions on the general devices? Chromebooks kind of fall in between some of these. They're like a laptop, except the basic difference there is you're not using Windows as the operating system. So they're kind of a crossover between a tablet and a laptop in that you're using an operating system that is not Windows. So if you have software that's written specifically for Windows, it will not run usually on a Chromebook there. The thing that you can run is obviously a lot of things, apps or things that are available on the web there. Yeah, Jim in back there.
How familiar are you with Android systems?
Which Android devices and which?
Android has trouble running Adobe Flash. Do you know enough alternatives to that?
Yeah, I mean, we could probably spend a couple of topics on Adobe Flash. Certainly, if we rewind a couple of years, Apple came out with a statement that it would never support Adobe Flash because of the vulnerabilities that come with supporting that. So you'll never be able to, access a site or do stuff that requires Adobe Flash. Now you're starting to get some of the major vendors. I think Facebook is coming around saying they're going to remove Adobe Flash from everything that they do, and because the reason is when you have Adobe Flash and there's content up on the web, when you go to that site, it's downloading program code. That program code can be quite flexible in terms of displaying stuff faster and doing graphics in a certain way. But along with that flexibility comes vulnerability. And the vulnerability is, in order to do that, it has to directly have access to some of the operating system functions, which then means if there's a malicious Flash content that's brought down to your PC, it can install a virus, it can install malware, and corrupt your machine. Now, under normal conditions, if you have an antivirus software on your PC, that's going through and scanning the stuff as it's coming down from the internet, and as long as it's a known virus, it will identify it and prevent it from getting to your PC. Unfortunately, if it's a brand new virus that came out and there isn't a signature for the antivirus to scan for, it won't find it. And that's what, if you've ever heard them talk about a zero-day attack. The zero-day attack means that a virus has come out, the antivirus people don't know the signature in their package, and there isn't a patch within, let's say, IE or the operating system to stop some of these attacks. So I've kind of gone around a lot of different places, but Flash as a requirement for a site or as a use, it used to be that it was in quite a number of sites. That has probably dropped by 50%. and the other 50%, most of them I would guess have a plan now to move away from flash and not support flash in the future. In terms of is there a package or is there an alternative, I don't know of any. If I'm a web developer, I can do stuff because if I have a website and you connect to me, I know a ton of information about your machine. So just the fact that you connected to me, I know what operating system you're using, I know what browser you're using, I know just a ton of information about you. With that information, I can customize the content that I return to you. So if I know you're coming in on a smartphone, I can, in a smartphone with this resolution, I can adjust the content that I give back to you so that it looks best and operates the best there. And that's what the better sites do, is they take advantage of whatever machine is used to connect to it. And so if they have a flash, they may have a little different version for the people who don't have flash capability. And so you run into that. And the flash capability, it's also a case of certainly a lot of vendors have created their own app. You've had vendors, some of the vendors move away from their site, putting content on their site so much as putting content in their app that you install. And when they put it in the app, obviously they have complete control. They don't have to use flash. They don't have to use any of these other mechanisms to do animation, screen type functions or things like that. So I don't know, did that answer a little?
Well, it's a question when people look at Android, they try to go to a site that has flash, doesn't run, and they ask, why not? That was a very simple question, so you know that Android doesn't run flash.
Right.
So interested in that. Android's not.
Yeah, and there are actually other browsers and things that can be put on, but yeah. Yeah.
In the past, 3M used to invite the phone vendors in, like AT&T and Kreuzer. The phone vendors would offer a special package to for home use or for us retirees. Do they still do that?
I believe the only supported vendor now at 3M is Sprint, and they do have an employee discount for that.
Verizon does too. They also do.
Okay.
Which store? Right. So you can do it online. So you go to the Verizon site. You go to the Verizon site, you have your pay stub. You have your pay stub with all the amounts checked off. That's 3M and you. And you can go in and there's a form you fill out and you pass the pay stub to it. If somebody actually pays attention to it, they'll adjust your contract. Yeah, I already did that, but I just have the phone. And I'd like to move to a smartphone, but my understanding was that I have to renew your contract.
Yeah, and certainly check around, because the so-called employee discounts and stuff like that. Like I mentioned, and I've talked a little bit about like Republic Wireless before. You have companies like that are getting down into the $17, $15 a month, stuff like that you won't find in an AT&T and a Verizon there. And so my only suggestion there is check around and see what you need and how it works, because it is changing very rapidly. I think, did you have a question, Jim?
Oh, I was just
or a comment?
Follow up when you were saying that you've got a Microsoft Surface as well, and I would also put that, you can use that as a tablet, pretty close to the laptop, so it is running.
Yeah.
And what Surface you got, it is running Windows, a version of Windows.
Right, there's the kind of the crossover devices that let you do a little more functionality, and whether it's with keyboards or certain things, you can put together solutions. The question there is kind of one of functionality, cost, things like that you do. But yes.
AT&T has a pretty liberal family. My wife and I are on our AT&T family, and whether we're 3 miles apart or 3,000 miles, and the definition of family is also pretty liberal.
Family can be anybody that wants to be on the same bill. One person is responsible for the bill, so if you're the one stuck with the bill, you're going to know them like family because you don't want them to skip out or do stuff. That's the only qualifier. Yeah.
Is 4G service from T-Mobile the same as 4G service from Verizon, from AT&T? Are they all equal when they do 4G?
Yeah, 4G compared to 3G, compared to 4G Lite. There are different variations, and it's kind of like if you're familiar with Wi-Fi. It's both the speed, but then, so 4G gives you a basic protocol and speed there, and that would be the same from vendor to vendor. The thing that's a little bit different is some vendors have better coverage than other vendors. So I could be down here, and if I have AT&T, I'm not going to get a signal. So 4G, doesn't do me any good.
You don't get it here for T-Mobile either.
And what they have is they have Sprint.
Yeah.
So there's Sprint repeaters here, and I get perfect cover. I have Republic, and Republic buys time from Sprint, and so I get coverage in any of the 3M buildings where they've put in stuff, because Sprint is 3M's official vendor there. Yeah, if you're traveling overseas or some of these areas, I guess the basic thing is speed is only as good as what the coverage is and stuff like that. I have a brother that lives out in western Minnesota near the South Dakota border. Well, there is no mobile coverage there except one vendor. So, doesn't matter what you do, you're stuck with that one vendor. You could purchase a plan from anybody else, but you're not going to be able to connect to anything unless you're in the Twin Cities or, in some other area. So, coverage certainly can be very important. And even in their coverage maps where they show, where they are, there's a difference between having a good, strong signal and having a weak signal. Because a weak signal means, you're going to have to be near a window or, near the outside, or can you be anywhere in a house or in any building and you're going to get a good signal there. So. Yeah, there's certainly options now. The other option that you're starting to see more of too is, as I mentioned, like I'm on Republic Wireless. This phone is specific to Republic Wireless. It attempts to connect first by Wi-Fi. So anywhere it can get a Wi-Fi signal and connect to a Wi-Fi network, my messaging and my telephone calls and everything goes through Wi-Fi. So it does voice over IP. Doing voice over IP that way means that the general subscription base of all the people, they're buying very little time from Sprint or, the vendor, the telephone vendor. Them not buying time from Sprint means that they then can offer plans, and I can get a phone and message, unlimited phone calls and messages for $10 a month. And so depending on what you're connecting to and stuff like that, you're seeing the phones and the plans starting to change a lot because of vendors like this and people essentially converting over to some of these other systems. Yes?
Now you're talking about a smartphone.
This is a smartphone. This is a Moto X. They also support the Moto G and the Moto E, but you can't use an iPhone. There's no iPhone that'll work with Republic Wireless. Data goes through. I have their 3G plan, and I did have the unlimited. Their unlimited 3G plan was $25 for voice messaging and data over 3G on the Sprint network was $25 a month. Now that's changing. They're offering, if you don't do a whole lot of data, they're offering kind of a metered system where you can get a half a gigabyte of data, and that's $17.50 a month. And the more you do on a Wi-Fi network for your data, your price actually goes down per month. So if instead you did very little on there, your bill might be $14 a month or $13 a month. And so costs and options have really changed, and that's why I recommend look around, see what you need, and then you get into what kind of phone do you need and stuff like that too. The phones have to be purchased for the Republic Wireless. They have to be purchased because it's a special operating system in the phone, have to be purchased from Republic Wireless or from somebody who is, has quit Republic Wireless. So if you went out to like an eBay, you might find a phone or two, but usually there aren't any. So you're buying your new phone. If you wanted a Moto E for Republic Wireless, I think that sells for $99 now. Yeah. And the more powerful Moto G, I think, is $299. That particular $299 model would be the equivalent of an iPhone in terms of the camera, in terms of the power and stuff like that.
Yeah, $199.
Or $199.
Moto G will let you get.
Yeah. So there's options out there. Yeah.
Different subject. I was doing a lot of people in the house, one guy was able to
Yeah, it varies. Certainly, solid state, they have the advantage of no moving parts and stuff like that. Some of the early models of the solid state drives were slower than the hard drives just because of the way that they read and stored information. Certainly, they consume less power. The nice thing, my laptop here from 3M is an HP, and that doesn't have a hard drive on it. It has just solid state, which means that the battery life is maybe a couple of hours longer than it would be if I had a hard drive in here. So I love it. I love it for that. The other thing, I guess, so solid state isn't bad. It works. If I was doing heavy-duty video editing at this point, I'd probably get a physical drive. It's faster, it's cheaper, it's some things there. Most people now at home don't need the hard disk space that you used to have because you have the cloud. And I think Jim will address some of that with his meeting next month on backup. So if you have a lot of pictures, if you have a lot of music, if you have a lot of video, you can store that stuff up at the cloud. Now, that's even a little bit slower than obviously a solid state and having a hard drive on here, but the advantage is I can access it from my smartphone, from my tablet, from my PC. If I have a crash or I have anything, it's automatically backed up. It's there. You take something like Google Photos now, unlimited storage of the highest resolution picture that you have. So you can store everything out there and have it out there forever and that. So the storage needs locally are kind of diminishing, and but if you do need stuff, like I say, you look at a lot of the laptops today, and you do not see a DVD drive, you don't see a hard drive, you don't see any of that, because the assumption is you've got enough to get you going here, and then everything else is going to be stored up in another server somewhere. Yes.
That's another phone question for you. I was very surprised to find that my iPhone 6 Plus is not locked to the company. I'm in Korea 10 months of the year here during the summer. So came back here, and all I had to do was pop out the Korea Telecom SIM, put in T-Mobile for 2 months. When I go back in August, I'll do the reverse of that. But when did they stop with the 6 and the 6 Plus? They don't lock the phones anymore? Is that true for the Android world also?
It varies with some of the vendors when you buy a phone from them, whether it's locked or not locked. Some of them will lock them, but even the ones that are locked, if you're a little technical, you can go out on the internet and you can unlock them if you wanted to switch, let's say, from an AT&T to a Verizon or something like that.
I got my phone in Korea from Korea Telecom on a 2-year contract. I came here and they just pop out the SIM, put in the new one, I save that SIM, so when I'm back at the airport, switch them around, and I'm back running on Korea Telecom.
Yeah, I don't know about, I don't have an iPhone, but I was thinking that got it in Korea, the other level. It's just a compete.
The rest of the world is further ahead in cell technology than the U.S. is.
Yeah, they also said, oh, you and your wife both have it through Korea Telecom. You have cable through Korea Telecom, and you have your internet from Korea Telecom. So we won't charge you for your internet at home anymore. And they said, oh, you've only got 100 megabits? That's old. In Korea, they switched us over to gigabyte service at home. And my HP laptop was connecting, not at a gigabyte, but I figure 850 megabytes is a pretty good speed. My iPhone was connected 400. So, and that's the norm in Korea.
Right. Yeah, and all of that stuff is moving around and being upgraded and stuff like that, but certainly speeds are getting faster, and because our demands, we want to do more with video and we want to do more with some of these things. Okay. We'll cover some of these. Some of the future displays. Don't be like this guy where you take your phone and tape it to your glasses there. While that may give you that experience, it's not what you want. This is the Google Glass here, and this has been out, a little over a year. Certainly that's changing. So where you're seeing, the trouble is, like I mentioned, if you want a bigger display, your phone starts getting bigger, doesn't fit in the pocket. Well, you're starting to see more of the displays that will project out, give you that larger display there. And that's what you have with the Google Glass, along with other capabilities. This down here is the Oculus Rift. Does anyone have one of these? Or no? If you're a 3D gamer, this is a must. Virtual reality. You put these on and you can move around the room. You can do stuff in 3D. So it's just fabulous what they can do with that. The other thing you're seeing with the screens is flexible. So here the display is very thin membrane and it ends up being flexible. And certainly, nobody probably needs a flexible phone here, but the fact that you have this capability means that you can stick it onto all kinds of other devices where that may be curved, that may have a need there. And so that's where you're going to see the capabilities starting to pop up more and more in these other devices there. Input, the other big problem that you have with computers today is how do you get input from the user there? And because the keyboard certainly is very old-fashioned, it goes back more than 100 years. What we need and what you're starting to see more of is like the leap motion. We talked about that, I think, at a previous meeting. I showed that product. All it is this little pack down here. It monitors your hand motion. So I can go like this. I can move stuff around. It can turn any laptop, any desktop into touch. And the nice thing about this is I'm not touching the screen, so I'm not getting grease on the screen. I'm not getting somebody else's germs. If you have people sharing a tablet or that, you're not getting any of that. You're just moving around, and it lets you do things. Position, GPS. GPS isn't so much new, but you're seeing apps take more and more advantage of stuff like that. It'll make suggestions when you are near a store. They have a special today, or they're recommending this product for you and that, and it's all based on proximity. Because it knows where these stores are, it knows where you are, and it's marrying that information together. So I didn't have to enter anything into the app. I didn't have to do anything. It's saving me having to search or do things. It's doing it for me automatically. Yes?
Does the app going out and looking for that, are we talking about battery life again? Because I know when I put some apps on, it asks permission to interact only when you've got the app running versus interact when the app is not on the screen, so it runs in the background.
Yeah, it can vary from app to app. GPS isn't a high battery usage functionality there, although it does use some battery life there, but it certainly can provide some nice capability there. If you have an Android phone, one of the things I like there is I can speak into my phone. I can say, when I'm near a flower shop, remind me to pick up flowers. That's all I have to say. It keeps track of my location. It'll notify me when I'm near a flower shop to pick up flowers. Otherwise, I can say, when I get home, remind me to do this. Okay, it knows where my home is. It knows, that at some point I'm going to be leaving 3M. I'm going to be going home, and at that point, it pops up the notify. So you can utilize the power that's in some of these things to help make your life easier there. Voice. I assume almost everybody with a smartphone certainly is using Siri or Cortana if you have Windows, or Google if you have the Android there, and you can speak. And if you aren't familiar, there's also like a plug-in. I use Google Docs. I can bring up Google Docs, and I can talk into Google Docs instead of keying in. So you can, if you're familiar with Dragon or some of the other voice packages, you don't even need a voice package. You can, again, utilize the capabilities that you already have that are available up on the internet and that. Future, we also have small sizes. You're starting to see it everywhere. In the smart home, we talked about all the different devices, the thermostats, fire alarms, cars. I don't know what the average car now has in it, maybe 4 computers in it, because you've got quite a number there, and you're seeing the displays in the computer starting to take a prominent spot and a big spot in there because it does open up the world to a ton of different things there. Robots, you're getting smarter devices there that can automate some of the tasks that you're doing at home, and usually that's done with computers in them, figuring out when to go or where they've been or what they bumped into, whatever. Smart refrigerators, keeping track of everything that's in the fridge, temperatures, menu planning, things like that can all be done from there.
In Korea, the refrigerators can't, the really expensive one, can be set up so that when you get down to so many pages left, it will contact the grocery store and have that product delivered.
Oh, my.
You don't need to know what's in your refrigerator. It'll just tell you you're out of this. So
Yep, it's a coming there. Future, I mentioned here that operating systems aren't as important as they used to be. You used to have the major distinction between Apple and Windows. Now we're starting to see all these other operating systems, and with multi-platform and things like that. And one of the things that have made it a little easier to do is instead of software programs, we're moving more towards apps and the internet. And when you move more towards apps and the internet, the version of the operating system becomes less dependent there of what you're doing, and you're starting to see a lot of variation there. It's still a factor today because there are certain packages that do require certain versions, and that's going to be there for a while, but you are seeing a move away from there. And that's why Microsoft 10 isn't going to charge for its operating system. So you can upgrade and you can do it. Why are they doing that? Well, they want to keep you on the platform. They know that if they charge too much or they did stuff, people would just switch to some of these other alternatives there. Right.
Doing it, so they're getting lost by
right. Future battery life. The batteries are getting better. They're lasting longer. They're smaller. That just means that you can utilize more capability, bigger processors, things like that in devices. Wi-Fi, 4G, speeds just continue to go up, better coverage, faster, more connections. You're finding Wi-Fi everywhere. You're finding it in a number of devices. Well, I think the cost to put Wi-Fi in a device is something like $7.50 or something like that. So, whereas years ago it would have cost you $50 or $100 to have a Wi-Fi connection in a device, now it's just minimally adding. So, Wi-Fi printer. I think the last one I bought, I paid, I don't know if it was $39 or $45, one of the two, but that's Wi-Fi enabled. I connect to it from my phone, and I print out my stuff from my phone and from my tablet. If you don't have a Wi-Fi printer, spend a few dollars, get a Wi-Fi printer. Local storage, cloud, we talked about that. Another one is artificial intelligence. Certainly that's getting big now. What I mentioned in terms of, when I'm near the flower shop, do this, that's using a form of artificial intelligence because it has to put different pieces of information together, where I'm located, what's available around me, doing things like that. And you're seeing more and more of this artificial intelligence built into things like Google Now. Watson is the extreme example. Watson won concentration, or no, Jeopardy. there. So, you know, they can understand sentences and spit things out very, very fast. I find it handy because as I'm getting older, my memory isn't what it used to be. I find that this device is saving me I don't know how many times because I don't have to remember as much. I can store dates. I can store things on here and bring it up fast, check for it, see pictures of people if I'm not sure if this is the son-in-law. I mean the in-law of my brother or that. So it just makes it easier to work with there. Then I do have a link on here to Microsoft's 2050 Target Technologies. It has a few things there talking about where they see the world going and stuff like that. So you can take a look at that later if you want. Questions, comments?
One of the things you see on TV is so many people are using smartphones to take video. Now there's also devices for dash cams. I think the future is going to be a lot of body.
Yeah, and the body cameras, if you look at like the Google Glass, that's one of the things that gets it in trouble because it is a video recorder. I can have it on all the time and people don't know that it's on and it's always there. And if I go into a locker room or I go into some place, you know.
They're getting smaller and smaller.
Yes. Yeah. The dash cam is interesting because I forgot what car manufacturer now has a built-in GoPro mount in the car that comes standard. The Russians have always had it because their insurance industry, you needed proof of who ran into who, and that's why it was cheaper for every car to essentially record everything than it is to have somebody say, no, it wasn't, I didn't pull out into traffic or whatever.
The other variation on that is I think NBC did a lot of times off the car where they worked with somebody else and a hacker took over control of the car, turned the steering wheel, ran them off the ditch by taking away the brakes. Now, they were working together, so they knew this was happening. But now you have to be afraid of hackers taking over your car and controlling it.
That car was specifically designed for that type of purpose. It wasn't standard production automobile or SUV that you could buy. There were things added on to it which allowed them to do that. That's what they're looking at as future view. So it's not just, take your Chevy down the road and somebody's going to hack into it.
Yeah, that's not possible. People will think just because they have OnStar or they have an internet connection that their car can be hijacked there, and it really can't.
That's the way they presented it on TV, though, because this was for his Jeep. And they said as soon as this information came out, Kreuzer right away made corrections.
It's not that easy.
It
isn't the typical hacker. These people were working together to demonstrate what somebody essentially could do, but it's not easy to hack in the car. Sure, because you have to have a hardwire connection, which they didn't tell you about. It's a long cord on 100 miles. And they have to be within a